Finding the joy in what I do is really important and impactful because I didn't get into rowing because I wanted to be fast. I didn't get into coaching because I wanted to be fast. I got into rowing because I love rowing and it made me happy. So making sure that that focus stays at the center, along with all of those other pieces that have developed along the way, is really critical because you could easily lose perspective and become a version of yourself that you never planned for.
Greetings and welcome to the Elevated Flow podcast. I'm your host, Coach Flo. The Elevated Flow podcast spotlights elite and everyday female athletes over 40, sharing how they elevate their game and their flow in sports, wellness, and life. These are powerful stories of strength, resilience, wisdom, and inspiration to help women stay active, age strong, and pass the torch to the next generation. Today, I have a very special guest with me. Please help me welcome Miss Asiya Mahmud. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Flo. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for being here. So, Miss Asiya Mahmud is the head rowing coach at the University of Delaware and a respected leader in the national rowing community. Since joining Delaware in 2024, she has led the Blue Hens to multiple CAA Boat of the Week honors, produced 2 all-conference athletes, and set a program record with 13 CRCA scholar athletes in her first season. Prior to Delaware, she spent 8 years at Drexel University, her alma mater, where she helped guide the Dragons to consistent CAA podium finishes, 24 conference medals, 20 DAD Bow medals, and a win at the 2022 Head of the Charles. Big deal. Awesome. On the international stage, Mahmoud has played a key role with USRowing, most recently coaching the U20 Women's 4 with Coxon at the 2024 World Championships. She previously led the same boat class to bronze in 2022 and coached the U19 Women's 4 with Coxon to gold at the 2021 World Championships. She also served as lead coach for the U.S. women's team at the 2023 Can-Am Mex Regatta, helping secure 14 medals, including 8 gold. Round of applause for that. That's amazing. Mahmoud is a USRowing Level 3 high-performance certified coach and holds a Master's of Legal Studies from Drexel's Thomas R. Klein School of Law, with a concentration in NCAA compliance and sports law. Her coaching career spans the collegiate, high school, and club levels, and she is known for her athletic-centered leadership, program-building vision, and commitment to advancing women's rowing. Welcome, Coach. Do they call you Coach Mahmud?
I actually go by my first name coaching now. When I got married, I didn't know if I was going to change my last name or not. And when I started coaching high school, I went by my first name. I felt like it was more approachable. So trying to figure out my name switch, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go back to my first name again. So Coach Asiya is what they call me now.
Awesome. And I do want to point out, because the podcast normally spotlights women over 40, that Asiya is not yet 40. She may not want to share her age, but I do want to point that out. But she's such an amazing woman. I knew that her story would resonate with the audience, so I asked her to be a part of this podcast. So I always want to start with, what age were you when you first started playing sports?
That's a really great question. I feel like I've been active my entire life. I think that anything my mother could sign us up for, she did. I'm one of 4, and so it was also just chasing my older siblings with whatever they were doing, whether it was biking to the park or whatever. I always loved just being active. But I think the first time I can remember being in organized sport is maybe 8 or 9 years old doing soccer, and just really one, not understanding how to play soccer, right? Like just going up and down the field and chasing the ball. But I think that that really made me love teamwork.
Okay.
Everything else before that is was kind of more individual, even like learning tennis and things at a young age. But the teamwork that I learned at soccer was something that I kind of craved ever after and was really awesome to be part of. I guess I was also homeschooled from second to fifth grade. So that interaction piece in soccer was really awesome. And I've just loved sports ever since.
Okay. So are you the youngest of 4?
I'm not. I am the third, a very true middle child. I was the I was the youngest for 9 years, but, now and I followed my sister to rowing, but no,
Okay.
I'm in the middle.
Okay, so well, that leads to the next question. What's your rowing story? What is your sister? How did you follow her into rowing?
Sure. So my older sister is 2 years older than I am, so I think to this point, she likes that she can take the credit for even where I am now coaching, because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have even been in rowing. But, she rowed in high school. She total, really smart person, but wanted to really bolster her resume as she started to look at colleges. So rode her freshman and sophomore year, which is when I was kind of getting dragged down to the river and watching her race. And she actually medaled at the Stotesbury Regatta. And I'm thinking like, she doesn't even like going to practice. If she can medal at it, then I'm going to be great. And actually, when I joined my freshman year, her junior year, she actually took a step back from it. Yeah, but at that point, I was hooked. I was really just so excited that I even got to be in a boat and be on the water. I think this story is the same for most people in rowing. Like the first time you get on the water, it's kind of transformational and it's more than you ever thought it was going to be, especially if you got the erg introduction first. And I just really loved it. So took off rowing in high school, went to college rowing as well, and kind of haven't looked back since.
Now, how did you get into coaching? Because you coached at your alma mater. Was that
Yeah.
right after you graduated?
Yeah, so I actually coached at my old high school before I coached at
Okay.
Drexel University. I was studying to go to law school after my undergraduate degree and, wanted to get a little bit better on the LSAT, but my high school was looking for an assistant and they said like 1 or 2 days a week, like nothing crazy. And sure enough, 1 or 2 days a week turned into every day and race days. And I was hooked, like just seeing it's just so special, like working with that group, like the high school group is definitely near and dear to my heart. But I think the thing that made me transition to coaching collegiate and like stick with coaching is that at the public high school that I went to, the piece of how to get from high school athletics to college athletics, there is so much information missing, and there is
Mm.
such a gap in terms of sharing that information, and the women that I was coaching didn't even know that they could get recruited or that they were fast enough to go to college and use that as to leverage their athleticism to be able to go to where they wanted to go. So I helped them. They got recruited. They went to college, and I just felt like I needed to be on the other side because I was like, how many other high schools and how many other young women are there like these that aren't getting tapped into and don't have the resources and don't have the information to be able to take it to the next level. So coaching collegiately was that next step for me. So I went to coach at Bucknell University for a year, and then after that was at Drexel for 8 years.
Wow, that's awesome. So do you ever go back or like have you built a program or left something so that girls in high school do know that it's a possibility for them to get recruited to college?
I continue to go back to those South Jersey high schools and make sure that they know that I'm from there and that I recruit there because it's kind of if you see her, you can be her. Like I
Yeah.
want them to know that I did it and that I think that they can do it too. So creating that opportunity and still going down to those practices. And there's women on my team here at Delaware that are from South Jersey that know that I went to school down there.
That's
So it's really
awesome.
full circle. But yeah, I think that that is my ultimate goal to make sure that women aren't left behind just because the lack of information.
Absolutely. So how did you get into did you get recruited to rowing college?
I did, and I guess that's the other part of my rowing story, so to speak. So my high school coach knew my college coach and the connection there and like that network. And Flo, you and I know that rowing isn't 6 degrees of separation. It's more like two, maybe 1.5, right? So like who you know is so important in life, let alone in rowing. And so I was really
Mhm.
fortunate to be able to leverage their relationship to be recruited and row in college. I mean, to even getting that job after I graduated, right? Like that those connections continue to work for me going back to the high school and coaching. They continue to work for me going back to Drexel. They continue to work for me now, even the times that I work with the national team, right? I think that those relationships are so integral. And I tell my team even now, like relationships and results go hand in hand. You have to
Absolutely.
be able to use those things together. And if you have them kind of out of whack, then you're not going to be successful as a person. So, um, no, I continue to use those relationships and even talk to my former boss slash coach just this past weekend.
Okay. I have so many questions swirling around in my head, and I'm like, I can't get ahead of myself, but I don't want to forget some of them. So, how did you go from, or how did you get involved in on the national level with US rowing, coaching in that area?
Yeah, I ended up doing my level 3 certification. I believe it was in 19. And I the class that I was in, the Casey Galvanic, he actually ended up being the head coach for the junior team. He was in that course with me, and I think that maybe he saw me in that course. I really don't know, but that's the only time I'd ever met Casey. And he and I had applied for that position. I had also been like teaching some level 2 certifications during that time during the pandemic. So again, just continuing to make connections, continuing to get to know people, continuing to get to learn, and I think that leveraged out to being considered for an opportunity with the national team. I thought it was gonna be at a different level. I thought maybe I was gonna start at the Can MX level and work my way up. But, that first year in 2021 was able to coach the Cox for to a gold medal in Bulgaria, and it was just a really special experience.
Yeah. And speaking of relationships, I think that is so important. Like you said, we met at the women's coaching conference, and that's one of the things that Madeline Talley talks about, women in rowing and leveraging those relationships and meeting other coaches. Cause I mean, at the coach or women's coaches conference, we meet women from all over the US pretty much. And depending on where the conference, we met in Boston last
Boston,
2 years
2
ago.
years.
And then I met some of the same people when they had the conference in California. I think it was in California last year, this year. I'm getting the times mixed up. It was either I think it was this year. And yeah, because then this one is coming up in December. But just leveraging those relationships and then getting on those email lists too, because she's always sending out emails about position openings for coaches and things of that nature. So it really is important to, build relationships and build a good name for yourself in coaching. And I mean, I would say that's pretty much in any sport,
Mhm.
but especially, like you said, with the degrees of separation in rowing, it's really, really important. How do you coach? You said something in your bio about athlete-centered coaching. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I mean, rowing is just not one of those sports where I'm going to be coaching down the sideline. You'll actually get in trouble if you're coaching down the sideline, right? So, keeping the athlete's development in the forefront is really important to me. I even ask them a lot of questions. I could be behind the mic for 2 hours telling them what to do, but I also like to ask them how they are going to make the change in their boat speed. And it keeps them really part of the process. And I tell them, like, of course, I care about them as athletes, but I care about them as people first. So
I
just
love
keeping
that.
just understanding who they are, and they know that even through the recruiting process. I say that I wanna coach their catch, I wanna coach them on nutrition, I wanna get them resources that they need so that they can be their best version of themselves. I don't wanna coach their attitude, and I don't wanna coach them to be a good person. I don't have the capacity to do that, so that people first and who they are, they have to come with those skills intact because they've developed that their entire life. The rowing is something they're still working on. So I really like to put the people piece first because those relationships are some of the ones that they're going to have for the rest of their life, and hopefully a rich relationship I'll have with them for the rest of their life too. But really centering that who they are is more important than their ERG score or what seat they
Yeah.
sit, because when they graduate, I don't remember those things. I remember who they were as a person.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we talk a lot about all of the characteristics that athletes build with being involved in rowing. And I like the way that you said you appreciate them as a person before an athlete, because a lot of times people do tie their identity to their athleticism, and that can be very harmful, especially when you have to deal with injuries or things like that, where you may not be able to row for a season or a period of time. So, excuse me, when you do, excuse me, appreciate the person outside of their ERG scores and all of that, how is it that you approach the people that may not come with that type of attitude or character? How is that developed? Because I say, as far as rowing is concerned, it's not like those characteristics are built just from being involved in rowing. There's pieces of it that comes from you actually coaching and the interactions and the opportunities and different things that they're involved with and situations that they face that builds part of that character. How do you approach that with your athletes when they don't come with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm very lucky that I particularly do weed out the ones that do come with it, but I think everyone does have struggles, right? Like I am going to see them at their worst times as well as their best times, but making sure that the average comes out more than those, right? So, I even told them this analogy. Well, something I was doing earlier this year, I started this summer. I had this jar and I had some beads and it was yellow, green, red, right? And every day I put a bead in the jar. And so it's a lot of yellow beads, no matter how much I think like, oh, I had this bad day. Was it a bad day or was it a bad moment? Right. And
Mm,
just teaching them to recenter themselves
yes.
on and keep perspective because it's so easy to wrap yourself up in your test score or wrap yourself up in one moment. But I want them to keep the perspective of, is it a bad day or is it bad life? Right. Like you want to make sure that
Right,
you
right,
have
right.
that. And like you said, it's so easy to tie up your identity, which is something I definitely struggled with upon graduation and figured out as I was getting into coaching, like redeveloping my relationship with sport. I make sure that this isn't your whole life, and I think, like, the university does a good job with it too, but we'll do a lot of cross training that is not rowing specific, so that they
That's
see some
good.
things that they could be good at once they are done rowing, or some things that they were good at before they started rowing, right? So that they can see that, like, just being an athlete is awesome, not just being a rower.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Now you're coaching at the highest level of collegiates and world rowing. What keeps you grounded when the stakes and expectations get high?
Think the same thing that I tell them, right? Like it's just a moment, right? And I joke around even with my staff and tell them like this is rowing, not rocket science, you know? You can blow this up or you could keep it really simple because it's really simple and finding the joy in what I do is really important and impactful because I didn't get into rowing because I wanted to be fast. I didn't get into coaching because I wanted to be best. I got into rowing because I love rowing and it made me happy. So making sure that that focus stays at the center, along with all of those other pieces that have developed along the way, is really critical because you could easily lose perspective and become a version of yourself that you never planned for. But I think keeping the joy of what we do at the center is really important to me, as well as having other outlets that allow me to turn that brain off, that piece of my brain off and play essentially and have fun with being an athlete myself still.
Yes, and speaking of which, so you said outside of rowing that you also do high, is it hydrox?
High rocks, yes.
What is that? Can you explain that?
Hyrox it's just a beast, to be honest, and even as I'm doing it, I'm like, "Am I finding joy in this?" But I do. It's a 1K run to
Okay.
8 different stations. So, the 1K run, and then you ski erg, 1K run, and then you sled push, 1K run, sled pull, burpee broad jumps, ergometer, lunges, as well as I'm not doing them in order, like a farmer's carry and wall balls. And so, takes well over an hour for me, and there's
Mm,
people that are, at the pro level for it, and you see them kind of ripping and running and, like, doing it in close to an hour, and then you see people that are doing it in over 2 hours. I think that the beautiful thing about that is their tagline's kind of like a race for everybody,
mm.
and literally you'll see people over the age of 50 doing it, you'll see amputees doing it, you see all types of people doing it, and so it's just a really awesome community that I've found to stay active and also still challenge myself to do things that I didn't realize I could do.
Okay. So how would that compare to CrossFit?
I think they get compared a lot. I never delved into CrossFit, but I
Okay.
think at the heart of it, the, I guess, race doesn't change, right? Like, I think at CrossFit competitions, you have different orders or different sequencing of the routine for the day. Hyrox is the same every single time. So I think that feeds like the rowing piece, like you're doing a fixed distance or you're doing a certain thing. So you can focus on getting better at the running. You can focus on getting better at different stations. You can focus on getting better across the board, but it gives a little consistency every time you do it.
Okay. That's awesome. And so then you also do running and F45 training? What is
Yeah,
that?
I was like just it's a chain gym, and I often say, like, that I don't get out in the boat as much as I like to because when I do, I start coaching myself, and then it's not fun anymore, right? So, something like F45 is, group fitness, functional fitness, they have cardio days, they have strength days. It's only 45 minutes, I don't have to think about what I'm doing, I can just show
Okay.
up, do the workout, and leave, and I've also made a good community there. You get to meet different people doing the workouts and everything, and I just, again, come back to that. That's why I got involved in sports. I like the community piece of it. I like working together with other people. So F5, High Rocks, running, all of those things have helped me maintain that in my life.
Now, with you coaching at such a high level and being at the university and everything, how do you? I know we make time for things that we want to do, but how do you schedule this into your day to get I mean, to be involved in all this cross training?
Yeah, I mean, I say it's like if you're a coach and you don't find the time to work out, it's like being a doctor that doesn't get a checkup, right? Like, I'm not just doing this for my body, I'm doing it for my mind. Working out is one of the only times I can shut my brain off, and I really enjoy that time that my brain is shut off. I always say signing up for something in advance. The same thing I say to my athletes, like, it doesn't mean you don't have to win, but you gotta sign up, right? If you sign up for something, it's gonna hold you accountable. So even as the year comes to an end, I'll sign up for like a triathlon or something of that nature because knowing that I signed up for something, I'm like, okay, one, I paid for it. And then
Right.
two, like maybe I should work on it if I had to sign up for it. And doing it with other people, it just helps me stay accountable to the time that I said that I was gonna commit to myself, but showing up for other people along the way really helps.
If you're listening right now and you're thinking, Coach Flo, I know I need to get moving, but I don't know where to start. Or you've been moving, but you feel stuck. Maybe you hit a plateau. This message is for you. I created a 21-day Get Active, Stay Active challenge just for women like you. It's simple, it doesn't take much time, and it's doable even if you can only work out at home. This challenge is designed not only to help you build strength and momentum, it's designed to build confidence and consistency without feeling overwhelmed. Every day, you'll get clear guidance and small, powerful steps that add up to big results. By the end of the 21 days, you'll not only feel stronger, you'll know exactly how to keep going. So if you're ready to take that step, join me. Click the link in the description to join the challenge. Your future self will thank you for it. Now let's get back to the episode. Yeah. I love that. And a lot of the coaches that I work with, we talk about the same thing where I'm still rowing and the coach, like, there have been times where I haven't gone and she's like, that's the only thing about coaching here is that we just stopped getting on the water, you know?
Yeah.
But for me, it's more of the drive now because I'm like, okay,
Mm.
well, now I went from coaching 5 days a week to 3 days a week. So the 2 days that I'm not coaching, I'm like, I don't want to drive, you know? So
Yeah.
I'll go on the weekend. But one of the things that I do love, I'm the same way as far as like my workouts, like that's like a non-negotiable. I'm always doing self-care. I'm always doing my workout. So I don't work out with the athletes or anything like that. I'm like, no, this is your workout. You run. You know, I did my workout this morning. How do you find time or what do you do for your self-care outside of working out and shutting your brain off by doing that? What other elements of self-care do you implement into your life?
I think that learning is a form of self-care.
Okay.
Right, keeping my brain active, so I actually, again, had a friend make a suggestion on signing up for a sewing class, so we signed up for something, right, and
Okay.
we did 4 weeks, and it was 6 to 9 PM was the only 6 to 9 PM on a Monday, of all days, was the only time I could fit it in my schedule, and I was like, "That is really stressful," to I'm like, "Oh, but I gotta get up at 5 AM, and if I go finish this at 9 PM, I'm not gonna be in my flow and blah, 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 blah. You can make all these excuses or you can find a way to succeed. Right. And so this past Monday, yesterday was the first time I didn't have that sewing class in 4 weeks. And I was like, wow, I was looking forward to Mondays so much for the last month because I had that sewing class. I made a tote bag, I made a pouch. I haven't used the sewing machines since before I was 10 years old. And so it was just so much fun to learn again. So creating ways for me to learn is something that I really love. I've signed up for like different courses with arranging plants or doing bouquets, things of that nature. I just really love learning something new, and then I think I'm gonna have, like, 10,000 side hustles, which I do not end up with, but I just love to learn. Anything that gives me a new skill or opens my brain in a new way are things that I like to find for my self-care.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that you said sign up for something, then you have a group, a tribe that'll hold you accountable. And that's one of the things that I talk about, even as far as like weight loss or getting into fitness, is that those programs that are the most successful are those that have some kind of accountability. Because if you just, try to make something up in your head and say you're going to do something and you don't tell anyone or you don't have anyone to hold you accountable, then more than likely it ain't going to happen. So I love that.
Exactly.
Sign up for something. Okay, so you have coached on some of the biggest stages with US Rowing. What have those moments taught you about resilience in yourself and in the athletes that you lead?
That's a great question because I think that belonging is something that comes up a lot, especially as a woman of color in this sport, but I think that something that I've come to tell myself is like, if you're in the room, you belong in the room. So you can find all these reasons why you don't belong, or you could just accept that you're there and make it happen. I think it's the first time I was working with a national team and was told that like bringing home a gold medal is the standard. I kind of wanted to go cry in my room. I was like, I just got here. Like, I'm just happy to coach the boat and I can't even like soak in that moment that that's what I'm happy about. Now I'm expected to win. Like, this is ridiculous. But then you take a second, you're like, I'm in the room for a reason and I'm here for a reason. Reaffirm what everyone else is telling you. And I say this to my athletes, like whatever you would say to your friend that was in the position you're in, that's what you should be
Mm,
telling yourself.
I love it. Yes.
You have to shut off the negative self-talk and the doubt because and something someone else told me before was like, okay, so let's pretend you are a fraud. If you fooled everyone else this long, keep going. You must be really good at being a fraud. So just keep on going like a little longer. You'll be fine.
And speaking of being a woman of color in the sport of rowing, and you've had many doors open to you, what has been your experiencing experience in reaching back and bringing other women of color, or have you had that experience to bring other women in color? I know you said that of color. I know you said that, if you see me, it can be you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's not just it's probably women as well, but what has been your experience in getting more women of color involved in the sport of rowing?
Great question. I mean, the programs that I've coached at, I think it's no accident that I have more women of color on my teams than other teams because they can see that, right? So just like I said, being in the room is a position of power, right? They can see me, and so they want to work with me. They feel safe with me. They feel like they can learn and they can be their best selves. And I feel the same, right? I feel like I can support them, I can give them, I can nurture them, but also push them to a way that they know that I've pushed myself, right? And so that
Yeah.
is awesome. Like you said, women in general, but like I try to make myself like very accessible. Anytime I see someone a woman become a head coach, I try to send them an email and say like, "Hey, I've been where you are and reach out to me and I'm here for you." I just think I said it at the conference we were at together before Flow, but like other women are not my competition. I don't see other coaches and other women as my competition. We're in this together and we'll be better.
So you
Um,
said at the conference that we met, you said continue.
sure. Yeah, I don't see other women as my competition.
Mm.
I see we are all in the same position. We should be working together. Our teams may compete against each other, but we are not each other's competition. And
Mm.
I don't have anything to gain from seeing another woman be unsuccessful, right? So I want to make sure that I support other women in their development as I
I
have been
love that.
supported by some women in my development. And I try to teach my coaches and my athletes the same. Like we only get better by helping other people and you've got to support people as you grow.
Awesome. I love that. Now, do you feel like you had any other women of color that kind of reached back to you when they saw you progress into this higher level of coaching and to say, if you need anything, I'm here. I've been there where you are. Have you had that experience?
Not in the collegiate level because there are none. It's kind of
Ah,
wild, I think for a very good portion of my career, I've been the only, and so I'm not the only now, but there's a reason for that. Like we have to continue to push and we have to continue to persist and stick with. But Brandon Johnson, outside of the collegiate level, has been really helpful. She also in Philadelphia from just the days of like, hey, Brandon, like I think I want to get back out in a single, but can I go out for a row? And she's like, absolutely, come down for a row.
awesome.
And then there'll be a moment I'm like, oh, can you help me carry what was I was like, hey, can you help me carry the boat down? She's like, Asiya, you can carry the boat down yourself. I know I haven't done it in a really long time though. So could you just help me carry a boat? No, I'll show you how to carry the boat yourself again. And it's like it's moments like that, right? Like to be challenged even when you're trying to find a safe space. So I so appreciate the care and check-ins that she has done with me and even my athletes. She definitely cares and passes is a person who's willing to pass the torch on. So she has been awesome.
Awesome. I love that. I love that community. Yeah. Now, being that you started coaching in high school, you've coached on the collegiate level internationally, world championships, won golds, and all of that. How have you seen your coaching evolve over this time?
I think the people centered is the piece, right? Just continuing to evolve what that looks like. So definitely want my athletes to be successful. And I think I can say an example of like a student athlete would have an interview. And I was like, okay, well, you've got to work with your interviewer about like, this is your obligation. You've got practice at this time. Make sure you plan around that. I don't know if I would do the same thing now, right? Like,
Mm.
I think about like, okay, this athlete has an interview for med school. I want her to be a doctor. She can go to the interview for med school. She can make up practice another time, right? I would like
Right.
her to be able to save my life rather than to be able to take some strokes.
Right.
So just recentering and repurposing like where I see that athlete centered, right? Like, because before it was like, okay, like, know what you sign up for, know what your commitments are, to knowing that this person is making the right decision, not just for themselves right now, but for the next 40 years of their life. So
Mm.
I kind of try to, I think that perspective has definitely grown as I've grown.
Yeah, I love that. I work with a coach that, and I coach middle school. So he's like, "Well, these kids are taking off and they need to know their commitment." And I'm like, "Well, that's why it's middle school rowing. We want them to fall in love with rowing. Stuff comes up. We don't want them to just be so committed that they can't miss any, you know, activities." And it's like, "No, you've signed up for rowing. You got to be here 4 days, 3 days a week or whatever." And I'm like, take it easy. He's like really, really hard on them. He's fresh out of college too. So I know that I hope that his coaching will evolve, especially if he's that hard on middle school kids. It's like,
Sure.
okay, yeah, it does evolve over time.
Yeah,
Okay.
and knowing your audience, right? I know that I can hold the same standards for the full team while adjusting to my audience depending on the boat that I'm coaching, right? The standard, there's a standard, but adjusting and meeting the people where they are is important too.
Yeah. And I look at that a lot as coaching with the middle schools because I say, everybody even learns differently, so it's like you have to think about that because, we have people that have like neurodivergent learners and things of that nature. And that's not always obvious,
Sure.
and or you may not even have that information, so you wanna be able to, like, approach the athletes just like you said, the standard is the same, but then, you know, you may be saying something, coaching an athlete, and they're not making a change, and it might be that they need to see it or feel it or, whatever. It's something different, so you definitely have to, work with that individual.
Yeah, even full circle, we met at the conference with Maddie Tully, and I continue to communicate with her about like my coaching development. And one John Wooden coach, she said to me, and I'm gonna not butcher it, but I'm not gonna have it exactly right. But it's like they haven't learned it till you've taught it, you know? And so before I will probably get frustrated of like, oh, they didn't load the trailer the right way. I'm like, well, that means I didn't teach them how to load the trailer the right way. I may have taught them once, but they may need it a different way than I told them, and they might need it 5 more times, but we're gonna get it right once they know how to do it. And I think that's empowering to not feel like you have to be perfect all the time and you have to get it right on the first try, especially as high performing student athletes and women. That's the expectation that we've put on ourselves somehow, that I want the safe space to be practice where they can make mistakes and they can learn and they can figure it out, because there's so many other times in life where you feel like you can't do that.
Right. Yeah. Well, with that, what's something about leadership that you wish more young female coaches understood early on?
That you don't have to be perfect to be a leader.
Mm,
You can learn and you can be imperfect, and I'm sure you've learned and seen over time of like, I mean, even as a head coach, when people apply for jobs, the amount of male applicants versus the female applicants, like, that is so real. And the skill level of the female applicants that apply versus the male, and like feeling like they're not prepared, and I'm just like, we've got to stop holding ourselves back. You just throw your hat in the ring so that you can develop and learn. I think if you put your hat in the ring, then you're going to find the right environment. And just because you did it and you didn't succeed doesn't mean you failed, like
I love that.
like changing that perspective of failure. I wish I had a stack of how many jobs I've applied to over the course of my career to know how many it took for me to get where I am now. So just persist and find people that are in your corner, have kind of like a board of directors for your life and your development so that you can
Yes,
feel
that's good.
comfortable leading.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I want to move on to our signature closing, which is pass the torch. I have so many other questions. I'll have to have you back because I want to talk about all of these medals and your you're in law school. Well, before we go to pass the torch, let me just ask this one question. You have a law degree with a focus in NCAA compliance. How does that shape the way you advocate for athletes and the model integrity in your programs?
They know that I have a law degree and that I'm just keeping law and order in the boathouse, right? So I think like integrity is really important to me and they're aware of that. But I also think that like it shows them like you can do something because you want to do it. Right. Like I'm clearly not in law school. I'm clearly not an attorney. I'm clearly just doing what I want to do. But like you're allowed to change course. You're allowed to just do something to say you could do it, and you could still be great at the things that you do.
Do you feel like law is something that you could fall back on if you ever thought about like saying, okay, I'm tired of coaching. Let me delve into something else?
That's a great question. I have no idea, but I know that I would be open to following any passion that sparks my interest, whether it's law or sewing bags, I think I could put my if I put my mind to something, then I'm gonna do it to the nth degree. So I think that yeah, that could always go down the road. Okay.
What would you tell your teenage self about the importance of health, movement, and caring for your mental and emotional well being with all the information that you know now?
The physical and mental well-being is well-being, right? Like you cannot have one without the other. If there's a couple of days where I don't get a workout in, then my mental game is off. It's literally like being a kid and going out for recess. We still need recess. You need to
Yeah.
continue to get the fitness in. People who love their pets, and like you wouldn't let your pet stay in the house all day, you gotta get yourself out
Correct.
too,
Yes.
so continue to care for yourself and you only got this one body, so keep it as fresh and as joyful and as best you can.
Now, speaking to older women over 40 that feel like, oh, you know what? I've never been active before. I feel like it's too late. So, yeah, I might just, just ride it out the way that I'm been going. What would you just tell them about like the importance of it doesn't matter how old you are, get up and get moving?
It really doesn't matter. No, and I'm gonna like the rest of this will be on our part 2 maybe someday. But I lost my mother about 6 years ago to breast cancer, and just before she had gotten sick, she had gotten into. I got her like a blender for one of her birthdays, and she got so into juicing. Like she would juice anything she possibly could, and that changed her life. She loved doing the. She got active again. My mother went on a bike since the first time since she was a child. She started running. I had never seen my mother run my entire childhood. She lost over 100 pounds. Like she changed her life
Wow.
for the better. And it was so cool to watch her do that. So like you're saying, it really is never too late to learn and find a love for something new. You never know what doors you could be opening in terms of that athleticism or unlocking something that you may love. It's never too late.
That is so powerful. That is so powerful. Okay, so our last question. When you think about your legacy, what do you hope the athletes who you've coached under you carry forward into their own lives?
I hope that the athletes I coach can see that I love what I do and that I love to do it and serve other people. I hope that they can be servants of this world and make people better and make communities around them better. And I hope that whatever they do, they love what they do.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, there are so many people that don't love what they do. And people say to me, like, how many jobs do you have? I'm like, I have four. Technically, I have four, but I absolutely love what I do. And that is so important because there are people that are going to jobs that they absolutely hate and they are scared to make a change. So, yes, I love that. I love that. Love what you do. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Coach Asia, for this interview. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it and have enjoyed our chat and definitely have to bring you back because there's so much more that we could talk about.
Absolutely. Thank you, Flo. I appreciate being on and this brought me joy today. So thank you again.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you. Well, thank you all for joining us, listening in, or watching. Remember to find your zone and elevate your flow. Peace.